Hello everybody, looking forward to having this conversation with you. This is the Refine Leadership Challenge with my team Triumph. My name is Christian Jensen, I'm the Executive Director. I'm here with my good friend Tim Felmer. Tim is a leadership expert. He's been involved in leadership and technology and sales for a long time. You've probably seen him around at my team Triumph events because he was one of our founding board members. He's been the president of the board, the angel coordinator, angel himself, number of different roles throughout the years. And he's also just a great mentor of mine. And that leads us into our topic today because we're going to talk about leadership and how do we develop ourselves to become the best leaders that we can. That's what this challenge is really all about. And Tim is going to give us just some great tips on how we do that. So, Tim, want to take it from here?
Thank you, Christian. Really appreciate the opportunity to be part of the Refine program. And my background is, as Christian said, leadership. I have been in a leadership position for over 20 years, Vice President of Sales in technology, and more recently with a company here in Green Bay, working with teams, building leadership presence within organizations. I want to talk today really on a topic that I appreciate a lot, which is being an intentional leader. And many times when you think about intentional leadership, you say, well, I'm going to lead others. I'm going to take them to the pinnacle of their life. I'm going to build them up to a point that they're going to be productive in our company, they're going to be productive maybe in a community or a nonprofit organization. But I really want to focus on an intentional leader is one that focuses on themselves, one that grows themselves. Think about a room where you have a finite space. You're limited with the walls and the ceiling. And as you start to look at that ceiling, if you're growing and you don't ever raise the ceiling, how far can you grow? How large, how wide? What can you do to go beyond the scope of that room? So I'm going to talk today about raising the ceiling. Even though it might be a finite room, what can you do to keep growing yourself? So as we think about our growth in many different aspects of our lives, we can look at our physical growth, which is working out, spending time in the gym, running with Christian, being an angel. We can look at our community giving. We can look at our vocational. We can look at our education. We have a lot of different areas that we can focus on. It's not possible to grow yourself in every area or every aspect of your life at one time. You need to take and narrow that focus and focus on 2 or 3 or 4 primary areas of growth. Sometimes you may not know where that growth needs to be yet. So you have to work with people around you to learn where that growth is.
If I could just interact in that, you talked about all the different areas of growth, and I think one of the areas that one of the things like I think about with leadership is like there's this kind of idea that in order to develop ourselves, we need to do that. We need to develop ourselves in every single area constantly. And it's like we need to constantly be, I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to do this. Like we got 100% energy, but we got 200% of the things that we need to do. And do you see that a lot?
Absolutely.
Young people, like they just feel like they need to.
They want to do everything.
Yeah.
They want to improve everything. And what I find is a lot of people want to focus on their weaknesses. And that's okay to develop some of the weaknesses, some of the areas that you could grow, but really look at your strengths. Look at the areas of strength. What are you doing to help yourself continue to build the skill set that I would say God has given you to be more successful? In those areas that you need to maybe improve on, spend some time there, but don't focus on them. If you focus on those weaknesses, you're only going to incrementally get them this far. If you're an outstanding runner, but you struggle at swimming, if you turn your focus into swimming, your running skills are going to decrease. If you focus on bike, and that is your weakness, you're eventually going to lose your strengths in your other areas. So you have to look at really still defining the areas of strength, keep growing those, but also take a little bit of time to grow your weaknesses. I recently spoke with Brian McWilliams, who is an angel, and that's one of the things that he emphasized with younger athletes in multi-sport is you can continue to build the strength in the area of the weaknesses, but if you move away from your areas of true strength and stop building those, you're going to eventually slow down in those areas.
And I think that probably is true. You talked about the physical sense, but I think that it's also true in the personal and the professional level as well, because there's a correlation between what we're good at with what we're passionate and where we're gifted, right? And focusing on those areas, like it's we're kind of taught, well, you need to improve yourself and be well-rounded, but often that we may stray away from what we're meant to do and what we're really gifted truly as, and we may then lose some of that passion in those areas that we really feel like we're meant to be in.
Absolutely. And as you move away from those areas that you're truly passionate about and truly what refills your energy level, what will happen is you can become a little spiteful, a little angry and frustrated, and not really find peace within yourself if you're moving away from the passions that you're gifted with, your talents. So my recommendation in that is recognize that you need to build areas in your life. It could be spiritually. If you've moved away from the spiritual side of yourself, you may need to spend a little bit more time there, just building that inner strength, inner soul, get you where you need to be, whatever that soul might be for you. If you need to, again, the physical side is really where My Team Triumph is, but it's the relationship side too. We can say we come out to run with My Team Triumph, but one of the true receivings for each of us with My Team Triumph is that relationship with a captain. That is the goal of the organization. And that in itself will give a person a lot of energy. And it's not a lot of time you have to put into it. 30 minutes a week to go run with the captain is not a lot of time. But the sense of well-being and the sense of creating a relationship and the strength in that part is what gives you some additional energy. And also you're building relationships with other angels. So it's not a lot of time. It's a small investment, but it's a big return.
So you talk about relationships, and you're talking about the My Team Triumph example, and there's relationships that you say to yourself, hey, I want to serve someone as an angel. I want to serve my captain, or even the other way around, as a captain, I want to serve my angels. It's one of the things I love to see, the stories about that. But it's also important to think about how you serve yourself, right? How you develop yourself and how you develop relationships which help cultivate your own abilities, right?
Remember I was talking about the ceiling, and if you're not developing yourself and that ceiling never rises with you, those people around you are going to get to a point where you're holding them back. And I look at my relationship with Christian, and over the years I've been involved with My Team Triumph from the beginning. The first day at Daily Buzz, when you brought this whole idea to my wife Kelly and I, if I would have said at that point, I'm not going to continue to help grow myself and keep growing my knowledge, my wisdom, my relationship building capabilities, I would have stopped. And if I would have stopped growing at that point, and I wouldn't have kept investing in myself and learning more and investing into the organization, I would have gotten to a point where you would have hit a ceiling as well. And if we would have both hit that ceiling at the same time, we wouldn't have brought this organization to where it is.
Right.
You always have to keep growing, personally and professionally.
Yeah. I think back to those years, and it's still true with our organization, is, we started something, and so we kind of had the expectation that we had a vision of where we wanted to go, but we all understood that how we got there was unknown.
Yeah.
And so we were comfortable with that uncertainty.
Yes,
we were comfortable with saying, we're going to figure this out as we go, and that's, that's okay. And then therefore inherently saying, like, not only do we have to learn the skills, but we have to learn the ability, and then also be able to handle that stress, be able to handle that, just perfectionism sometimes, and really to make it the way that it's going to be.
Working and growing the organization, I think that's that you hit key on. As a leader, there are going to be points in your life that you're going to be uncomfortable, and you're not going to know what that path is going to be. Strong leaders are willing to accept being uncomfortable and allowing themselves at times to make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and create opportunities to move in a different direction that are going to be more successful.
Yeah.
And you have to look at the effectiveness and the results, not necessarily the path that you took to get there. So strong leaders, whether you're leading others or whether you are being led by others, you have to be willing to be able to receive and give honest feedback. Strong leaders listen. Strong leaders spend the time to hear all the options and then determine which route is best to take. And sometimes you might hit that Y in the road and the team may say go left, you go right, and you don't get the results you wanted. That's okay, because you can now learn from the opportunity. On the other hand, you may make a good decision and the team around you is going to learn why that was what you got the positive results from it. So leadership is about knowing oneself, and in today's world they call it emotional intelligence. And you can spend a whole lot of time about learning emotional intelligence, but it's really understanding yourself and understanding how your interaction with others are helping raise them up to a new level. And that's what leadership is. It's about growing not only yourself, but then growing the people around you. And I've invested a lot of time helping people over the years grow themselves. And I think it's critically important that you spend time with mentors that are engaged and above your level of leadership, and people that are even, because you're going to learn from all of them.
Yeah. And I think that's true no matter what level you're at, right? I mean, even
Absolutely.
if you're a CEO of a company, you still have to have, someone that's a mentor for
Yes.
you. You still have to have someone that, you can go to and say, gosh, I'm thinking about this, or I'm really struggling with this, or to put in your life that will observe you and say, hey, I saw you do that, and I want to give you some feedback. And, I know early on, that's something that you provided for me, and I've really, really enjoyed. And I always knew when you were, you wanted to talk, because you'd come in and I could tell that, you were a little unsettled. I could tell there was something on your mind that you really wanted to talk about, and I was just kind of like waiting for that to come out. And but I think it's really important, like you said, to be open to that, especially if you're, like I said, no matter what level you're at, and high level, starting off and to get going. So how does one really find what advice would you give to people, and like where do they search for a mentor? Should they look in their company? Should they look, in their faith environment? Should they look in their friends? Like how would you suggest they do that?
Yeah, sometimes you may have to look in different areas for the mentorship. And again, when we talked back and we evaluate where we are in our life and what areas we might need some assistance with, you may have a spiritual mentor and you may have a business mentor. And they call themselves business coaches. So all depends on what your true needs are. If you're looking to build a leadership skill set, you may have to invest in that a little bit financially to get a real qualified business coach, leadership coach to help you out. You may need a personal trainer athletically.
Side. Yep.
So it depends on where your focus is. When we're talking about pure leadership, though, I would recommend that you try and reach out to someone that's not within your business and within your organization, because they will give you some of the most honest feedback to you without having any investment or interest in what your success is at that company. They're going to give you the feedback that is very valuable with their experiences in life.
Very objective.
And very objective. And you want them to be mature in their industry, in their business, because you're not looking at the skill sets. You're not learning a skill set of financial planning. You're not learning the skill set of what your business is. You're learning how to be a leader, how to take and receive information, and then make a decision on it. That's what you're really getting that mentorship for. Is if I'm in this situation, or I've been in this situation for the last month, and I can't handle the outcomes. The outcomes aren't getting me where I need to be. That's what you want to have a mentor for. And have them look at it from an outside perspective to say, have you tried this? Have you received this information without judgment? How are you moving forward and making your decisions? That's what you want that outside mentor for.
Right.
And they're not always going to be your friend. You know, they shouldn't be the person that just agrees with you. They need to give you honest feedback as to possibly at times, have you thought about looking in the mirror? Have you looked at how you are conveying that message? Are you using a lot of yous and finger pointing? Or are you saying, what can we do? And how can we impact the results differently?
You know,
that's what we look at.
Yeah, that's like the hardest thing, isn't it? You know, it's hard to say, especially as a leader, because you want people to look at you as this perfect person, right? I mean, I think that's one of the things, like when we start in a leadership journey, we think leadership is all about the outside persona, and you think, gosh, you know, but I think there's a lot that can be said with truly being authentic and truly, you know, you can still be vulnerable, right? I mean, you can still be like, as a leader, you can still be like, how do I grow, and still seek and solicit feedback from those that you lead, and show, you know, your vulnerability while still maintaining their respect. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think back in my years, and I had mentioned earlier, I'd run into a parent that I had coached her son in baseball. And this was almost 12 years ago. I coached baseball for almost 8-9 years. And I'd forgotten that she had always sat on the sidelines and watched me coach. And she recently said to me, she said, Tim, you know, one of the reasons I have so much respect for you is how you interacted with those kids. And as she, you know, kind of explained, she goes, Tim, she goes, yeah, you were the coach, but you also, you know, you respected them, and you taught them to respect each other. You listened to them. You got their feedback as to what they thought they might be doing wrong, and then you guided them as to how to do something differently to get a better result. And I thought about this, and I'm thinking, okay, these are only 9-year-old kids. They weren't adults, they were just kids. But she said you didn't treat them like kids. You treated them like young adults, growing them and teaching them the right way to approach baseball. And I remember that conversation clearly, because it's like, at the moment, I didn't see myself that way. I just looked at myself as a coach. And, you know, I started to think back, and that's what you have to be, is you have to be a mentor to people. You have to be a mentor. It's no different with your kids. You have to be a mentor. You have to be a leader with yourself, growing yourself. And I look at that even now with my children, I have a couple young adults, grown adults out of school and college. And when we are in athletic events, triathlons, I still want to be at the finish line first, because I want to show them that I can still compete. At 50 years old, I can still compete, I guess, against them. And I still get there. And the best part about it is I can get there and finish. And it's not to be ahead of them, but it is to encourage them to continue to grow their athletic skills. But it's there to support them when they get there, to say, great job, to say, you did an awesome event. And whether you placed or not, I'm there for you always. A good leader is there for their people. A good leader is there for themselves. A good leader is there for their spouse, a good leader's there for the children. That's what leadership is all about.
Yeah, so you're present.
You're present at all times. Yes.
I think about the quote, people don't, care how much you know until they know how much you care. And,
Yeah.
and I think, that's perhaps another lesson is that, sometimes leadership, you think you need to be, you need to have a distance from people and not really, maybe be emotionally connected in some ways. Obviously, it's a healthy balance no matter what you do, but it sounds like you can still have, you still want people to have, you still want to show them that, you trust them, you believe in them, and get connected to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then that trust will just grow and
Yep.
develop that leadership. That goes to that emotional intelligence, right?
Absolutely. And I just read an article, it happened to be yesterday, about some of the most successful CEOs at organizations and what made their organization successful. And what came out of it really was that all the CEOs were engaged with their people. They would do the walk around. They would go and talk to the employees. They would, and these are large organizations, so they were engaged and they were present with the organizations. But the twist on it was the even more successful, the ones that were the most successful organizations were those CEOs that were vulnerable, that were sincere, that were truly caring, and not talking about the dollars. They weren't saying, what can we do to make more money? They were the ones that were saying, how can I grow my people better? How can I invest in you to help the organization grow? It wasn't about those big goals of the financial side. It was about caring about the people. So even the most successful CEOs, what separates the best leaders are the ones that give back to their people within the organization. And they do show the kindness, the caring, the true, genuine, build an authentic relationship with their people.
It makes me think, I saw an interview once of Pastor T.D. Jakes, and he was asked something along the lines of, like, how do you go about really building people? And he said, something like, every single day I look for, I think about my schedule, and I think, who am I going to interact with throughout that day? And intentionally think about how I can add value to their life.
Yeah.
And then also be open to spontaneous things that come up. I just saw this person, and how can I take this moment to add value to their life? And part of it is that shift of saying, instead of telling people, here's like the goals that we need to meet, it's how can I build these people up?
Yeah.
And really, I think also having that sense of, like, as a leader, you kind of get the energy from those people.
Yes, you do.
And you can tell how they're doing without even them saying, how they're doing.
Yep.
Trusting your gut as a leader of, this is what this person needs, and not passing through an opportunity if you feel compelled. How are you doing? How are the kids doing? Or, what are you feeling right now? And really, really help coaching them in that moment.
Yeah, and in business, sometimes that's a struggle for organizations because they don't feel that's time worth spent to learn about the people. How are you doing today? How are your kids? Oh, by the way, wasn't it your birthday yesterday? Happy birthday. Happy belated. The intentional side of being a leader is very critical. And it's not, and you got to be sincere about it. You do have to care about it. People will read through you if you're not sincere about it. Just walking up to somebody and telling them, hey, you're doing a good job, but you not knowing what they're doing, that's not sincerity. The sincerity part is, how's your day going? What are you working on? That looks good. You're doing a great job. By the way, I heard recently you've been really doing some outstanding work. Good job. That's a leader coming down to the level of a person, of the humanness, being part of their world. Because many times you look at the glass offices, the higher level, and you see them in their offices, but if they don't come out and engage, you just think you're just a number working for an organization. And I look at my Team Triumph, and I look at all volunteer organizations. those volunteers are coming out there for what they believe in. Most employees will stay at a company because of what they believe in. And in today's world with the younger generation, they have to believe in the organization. They have to believe why they're there is within their own value system. And if that doesn't match and that isn't meshed together with them, that's when you see them leave.
Yeah. I think you're so right, on the younger generations. And when they're asked, and I've read many articles on this, like when they're asked, what do you look for in an employer? Like they want to feel purpose there.
Yeah.
They want to feel like whatever they're doing makes a difference, and that it's not just about, generating a great, financial, report, but also that they're making an impact. Whether that's a charitable organization or a for-profit organization, they want to feel, that connection to a greater purpose. So,
and that's why I look at our 7 years together. I look at the success of just My Team Triumph, and it is a case study in itself. Because I believe the success of My Team Triumph is because we found a spot in people's heart that they can invest themselves into and feel that there's almost a greater return once they're part of it. And that's the differential. And there's many organizations that are out there, are nonprofit, and they might be out trying to solve cures for cancer. They might be trying to do this, and they might be trying to do that. We're not trying to solve any physical issue. We can't change the situation our captains are in terms of their physical or emotional situation, but we can change the presence of their mind. We can change the dynamics of who they're around because they can feel part of something again. And that's a difference. That's a differential. And therefore, it's a two-way give. People that are angels and volunteers are giving to those that can't do something, but those that are challenged in one way or another, they're returning that giving by caring back. So that's the difference. And that if we can connect with people like that in business as leaders, if we can connect with people like that in our church or community, we're going to lift everybody up.
Awesome.
And that's raising the ceiling. That's getting that ceiling out of the way. It's not trying to reach goals. It's really not trying to reach goals. It's trying to grow. It's giving yourself an opportunity to grow with people and staying with them and being part of them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just think about inclusion and acceptance, and that's what I hear, when you say that. And I think even, and we're in church, and our pastor's talking about, tithing and giving, and there's so much stress around giving, not just financially, but giving of time and giving of energy, and I think one of the lies that we hear in our minds is, if I give, I don't have anything else, right? And I think one of the true kind of hidden realities, and this is really one of the foundations of My Team Triumph, because and one of the true realities is that when you give, you receive.
You receive. And
you receive more than you give.
Absolutely.
And we think about like endurance racing, and it's very much sometimes, to be honest with you, a very me environment, very selfish environment. And I've felt it. We've had thousands of people that have been involved that felt it, that when they realize that when they give more, that they receive more.
Yep.
And not that should be the motivation. It should be, of course, should be out of just the generosity of their heart. But I think that's a really great lesson. It's a great lesson, of course, in My Team Triumph. It's a great lesson in leadership, right? About giving, and then knowing that when you give more of that to your employees, your associates, or whoever you are, that you're going to be better, your organization is going to be better, and your organization is going to meet a better result. Yeah.
So I had met with one of our angels, Terry Albrecht. He also is a very a good contributor to My Team Triumph through Packer Fastener. And we had a conversation about leadership one day, and Packer Fastener basically sells nuts and bolts, and but Terry said, he goes, "What do you think we do?" And I said, "Well, you probably deliver and sell nuts and bolts and other components to businesses." And he goes, "We do." He goes, but we build leaders." And he goes, that's really the foundation of our organizations. We try to build leaders. It's got a great process to building leaders, but I look at my team Triumph as we build leadership as well. You know, we build angels that are leaders. They lead their captains, they lead their teams. We have volunteers, we have a lot of people, but we develop people. And we develop them into strong leaders, into the community of my team Triumph.
You know, and it's a great example with Terry and Packer Fastener because, you know, on the surface you might think, you know, and this is no offense to Terry and Packer Fastener, but, you know, it's like, do I have a desire to work at a company that sells nuts and bolts?
Yeah.
On the surface you might think, oh, I don't really want to apply there, but when you talk to people that work there, and I read a great article recently about Packer Fastener and just about the culture that they have there, and I think that's one of the things, like if you learn about it, you talk to people and you see how the culture is there, and you know it's not just about nuts and bolts. Maybe that's a new tagline for Terry. It's not just about nuts and bolts.
Not the biggest nut in town.
Not the biggest nut in town. But it's about the people, right? It's about connecting people, and I think that's a great lesson in leadership, right? About people connection.
So really, you know, that culture, you know, you have that CEO, the executive director, you have that one person at the top that really creates that future vision of the organization. You can look at the Bible, you can talk to many of the leadership, or read many of the leadership books that are out there. You got to create a vision of where your organization is going to be going. You got to get people to the culture of the organization to believe in that and start moving in that direction. When you get the whole group of leaders, the culture, the people, all in alignment, you're going to have a successful company, successful business organization.
Awesome. Well, you've given us a lot to think about today. You know, find a mentor. You know, give and you will receive. You know, have a vision. So many great things to think about. Is there one thing that you want to leave the people watching this video that, you know, what's one message that you'd like them to really take?
You know, to be a leader, you need to grow yourself, and you need to spend some time identifying where you need to grow, and invest in yourself. If you invest in yourself, you're going to get yourself to a level that you can lead others and build others and grow others. But if you don't spend the time on yourself, it's going to be tough, and it's going to be a challenge to grow others around you, because you're going to hit that ceiling, and they're going to want to keep going. And if they want to keep going and you're stuck and you're not moving and you're not growing, they're going to find another place to be.
Awesome.
So,
Tim,
Christian,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well said. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.